Destiny 2 is a bad game has been said infinite times throughout the franchise's lifespan. However, let it be known that the final shape has brought forth so much potential from this bad game that I'm starting to doubt that old adage. The 11 out of 10 story, coupled with great atmosphere and incredible loot quality, quantity, and uniqueness all blend together such that Bungie didn't just cook, they prepared a feast fit for a king, served it excellently, and then gave us the castle to stay in afterward. First things first. The campaign was all caps amazing, and legitimately felt like a Bungie Halo-era narrative experience. I won't have any hard spoilers here, as I plan to write a full breakdown on why I like the story at some point in the near future. Just know that the dialogue is well written, the plot points and twists feel natural and are well executed, and the characters all feel like people, which is such a massive step up that it legitimately caught me by surprise. Moving on, Prismatic is just so fucking cool. I can't, bro. Every time I think about it, it makes me want to stop writing this script to go build craft with it more. The only thing I think I want is more of it, but I have a feeling we'll probably be getting some Prismatic add-ons in the coming episodes. Even if we don't though, I'm not worried. I've only really fleshed out builds on Hunter so far, and since I play all three characters, I've got way more exploring to do. Bungie has also made this easier, because unlike Stasis or Strand, which required a bunch of monotonous grinding for alt characters, Prismatic automatically shares the fragments you've unlocked to your other characters. You still need to play through the story to unlock aspects, abilities, and supers, but this fragment sharing combined with account-wide power actually encourages you to play multiple characters instead of making it a chore for possibly the first time ever. The story also does a good job of consistently expanding your builds as you progress, so I'm legitimately looking forward to playing and build crafting through the campaign on my Titan and Warlock. The cooperative focus missions are also pretty cool, if a bit repetitive because they force you to run the same missions you've already played. However, the added mechanics do a decent job mixing things up, and so does the -15 power level cap. They're also power capped at 2005, and considering you finished the campaign at 1960, you've got to do a bit of grinding before you come back to run these missions, which means they shouldn't be all that fresh in your mind when you do end up playing them again. Overall, they were definitely the most enjoyable experience I've had running higher difficulty campaign missions, especially when compared with Witch Queen or Lightfall's variants. Alright, that's enough gassing up the story for now. I've also got to explain why the final shape doesn't just do story well, it does Destiny well. It has to do with something I like to call the essence of Destiny. This is basically a culmination of exploration, secrets, loot, mystique, and how you can choose to engage with all of those things. Destiny has always had open areas to explore, but the Pale Heart is the first truly alive destination, in my opinion. This is mostly due to the variety of environments, activities, and secrets contained within. Parts for Kvostov litter almost every activity if you know where to look. Dual Destiny's trigger sequence is mixed in with stuff you'll probably be doing already if you're just playing the expansion. Puzzles for prismatic fragments are everywhere, and best of all, none of this stuff is on your map. If you aren't a goofy min-maxer like myself, you could honestly spend a week or two searching the Pale Heart for secrets. This is capstoned by the mother of all secret missions, Dual Destiny. Now, I must preface this with the disclaimer that I didn't go in blind. I actually happened to catch about a quarter of the Astacross video while going through an intense battle with ADHD, so I did actually know most of the mechanics going in. That being said, the timer, mechanics, and whisper-style pathfinding made it so that I was still on the edge the entire mission, even with some prior knowledge. It was extremely cool, and the twist at the end is probably the coolest thing Bungie has ever done in a secret mission to date. Basically, the mission is good, so you should go play it. That being said, it does require 2 players and communication, which is the quintessential social anxiety sufferer's nightmare, so some will consider that a downside. Bungie seems to have thought of that already, however, as you only have to clear a single run before the class items become rare drops from chests in the Pale Heart. I haven't tried this method of farming myself, so I can't comment on drop rates or efficiency. It does exist as an alternative to farming the mission, however, and that's the important part here. Alright, so that's 2 parts of the essence equation: exploration and secrets. Now, what about loot? Well, my dear Guardian, the loot this season is basically everything you could ever want. There are so many exotics with unique roles to play. That is, role as in position, not role as in... you know what I mean. Still Hunt is a super good but also risky damage option that has secured Hunter's viability in endgame DPS scenarios until Bungie inevitably nerfs its interaction with Celestial Nighthawk. It's that good. Microcosm is great for add and major clear, similar but also different to an LMG. Red Death is back and cooler than ever. Kvostov is probably my favorite workhorse exotic right now, as it's exceptionally good at clearing out trash or large groups of fast-moving enemies, aka Grim. Ergo Sum is probably the most unique exotic in the entire game, as well as being a callback to the weapon engraved in our Guardian's tombstone in the Corridors of Time back in Season 9. It's the first ever special ammo sword and has a ton of cool rolls. It is such a goofy weapon that I legitimately want to make a Stronghold PvP build now, just to mess around with it. The support frame auto, however, was the first piece of loot that I saw and immediately thought, this thing will change the way people play this game forever. I could, and probably will in a later video, talk about how crazy it is when it comes to shifting the meta, but for now I'll just say it's nuts and that you should craft it and try it out with enhanced physic before they patch it, because right now it's giving X2 restoration and that is so funny. Man, we got so many cool weapons. The Raid Sniper is the first aggressive frame to get quick draw and snapshot in separate columns, and as a bonus has a crosshair reticle that looks super clean. Some days the first alternative to Fractithist we've ever gotten, not called Conditional Finality, and is juiced to the max for PvP. The Call is the first ever kinetic slot rocket sidearm, and due to its strand element and ability to roll desperate measures is great for PvE prismatic build crafting. Honestly, there are so many weapons that I could go on for ages. However, I have one mild microscopic critique. Where the fuck is my 140, Bungie? I've been waiting half a year at this point for a good energy 140, and what do I have to show for it, Batman? Luna's Freaky Howl. This thing doesn't even let me see when I shoot it, because it's too busy mogging my sight picture, man. Anyway, rant over. Just had to mold for a minute because everything in this DLC was too perfect. I couldn't handle it. Aside from that small issue, there are so many good weapons for PvE and PvP introduced in Final Shape and Echoes that I legitimately cannot list them all here. So that covers loot. Now, as for Mystique, this is a lot less tangible. I am, however, going to try to explain it so that you guys don't think I'm insane. I'm also going to try not to spoil anything, but without context, this might seem pretty weird. Okay, imagine being in a fist fight where you're really slow athletically, but really fast mentally. You can see everything that's about to hit you, but you can't do anything about it. Basically, Destiny 2 has had this issue where for the longest time, we've known where the next punch was coming from, so to speak. Now, however, well, aside from the Vex, because of Echoes, we really don't. We've recently had some reveals regarding the Witness and the Traveler that make us feel really small and drastically expand the universe Destiny takes place in. I won't go any further than that, but I will say that I am very interested in the lore again for the first time in a long time. If you don't pay attention to in-game lore or want context for what I just mentioned, go watch Bife's It Exists video. You'll know what I mean. I will warn you though, it does spoil some things regarding the story. That's just lore-wise, however. On a smaller, more tangible scale, the introduction of prismatic, exotic class items, a random roll special ammo sword, and a weapon archetype that heals your allies when you shoot them with it has made the game feel like it's brimming with potential again for the first time in a very, very long time. The Mystique has returned, and I cannot wait to see how Bungie's team leverages this fact. Okay, so that's 3 of the 4 ingredients. The last one, aka how you can choose to engage, is arguably the most important, however, because it is the thing that decides whether the previous 3 are enjoyable for the most players possible, and this time, I can say without a doubt that it worked for me, and based on review scores, it worked for others as well. I loved finding a bunch of the fragment puzzles, especially the one in the Divide with the elemental balls. Figuring that out for the first time was just so freaking cool, but I didn't want to explore for 30 hours, so I watched a video on Kvastov and the rest of the fragments. I wanted to beat the raid mostly blind, then play Excision blind, so I did. I wanted to know Dual Destinies mechanics, but only half paid attention to an explanation video, which led to the coolest experience I've ever had in a secret mission. I'm not sure if I'll always have people to farm the exotic class item with, so I'll probably do some patrol grinding, because that's an option. I love it when we get good craftable weapons, and I really liked roaming around the Pale Heart because the destination is just so unique and cool. Well, that's how you craft some of the coolest weapons. Just roam around, pick up chests, interact with stuff. I am subbed to Bife, so I saw his video I mentioned previously, which gave me more interest in the lore due to recent discoveries. And even Pathfinder, which I thought was going to be a glorified bounty board, ended up being a pretty chill way to earn XP. Basically, everything was presented in such a way that I really enjoyed interacting with it, and that is honestly impressive. Given content creators making guides and lore videos isn't exactly a voluntary thing on Bungie's part. However, as it is something that happens as a result of Bungie fostering a good community, and it happened to benefit me, I thought I'd mention it. Now that I've yapped about Destiny's Essence for far too long, let's get controversial. Salvation's Edge is the best raid Bungie has ever released, full stop. Be warned. I will spoil the raid here, but I won't directly explain mechanics as that would take ages. If you want the best possible experience in said raid, pause the video, go do the raid up to encounter 4, watch a guide or 7 on that encounter, then beat the raid and come back. Alright, you going? Good, let's continue. The first encounter does an amazing job teaching you the timed charge, bouncing, and resonance banking mechanics, while still making sure you have big things to shoot at with Hydras, Overload Minotaurs, and Tormentors spawning intermittently to block progress until they're killed. It's the perfect first encounter to a raid and is neither too short nor too long. Encounter 2 is the first boss, and iterates on the charge mechanic by adding another type of resonance to further complicate things. The Call to Reckoning and Stolen Valor mechanics are also super cool because they mix up what role you play during each run of the encounter, and make sure that people are on their toes, as if a side is too slow on callouts and do not charge the capacitor in time, you could wipe. The boss itself is also very aggressive, and seems built for and to even encourage sword damage, as its stomp attacks didn't one-shot in a post-nerf well even on contest mode. This creates a massive contrast in damage strategies between the raid's two bosses, which I greatly enjoy. Encounter 3 is basically a circuit relay race where you need to make sure to keep track of your partner, and if you do it the way Bungie seems to intend, it's especially frenetic due to timed rotations while keeping charges bouncing back and forth. That being said, there's an easier strategy, and that in itself is also good for the encounter, because you're adequately punished for failing the mechanic, and you must be ready to kill the subjugator that spawns if you want to make the tight timing. Cabal turret spawns also keep you on your toes, and as a side note here, having to call out non-boss ad kills in a normal raid was such a breath of fresh air. Things in normal raids usually hit like a wet fish and fall over with less fight than the average EDZ drag. That's not to say I like the forced surges, because if Bungie wanted to make us like 5 power stronger and remove surges, I'd most definitely support it. I do, however, like that I can die if I'm not paying attention. Encounter 4 is my favorite puzzle encounter in a raid ever. I watched ATP's guide, read the entire Raid Secrets Reddit post, and talked with my teammates for like an hour and a half before everyone was on the same page with what was going on. And when everything clicked, it was like my brain had been zapped by the Traveler. The first time I saw the glass wall shatter and I ran out of the solo room was legitimately euphoric. The first time we made it to the 5 dead phase where you have to match ghosts to guardians, and because we knew to make our guardians look really weird, we did it with less than 5 seconds to spare, will stay with me for a very long time. I love this encounter, and I'm excited to run it more in the future. Now, for the 5th and final encounter, the actual witness fight. This battle is why I have to preface my favoritism of the previous encounter with puzzle. This entire section is insane. You scale a tree for so long just to make it to a door, and then a platform that rises into the coolest arena and boss reveal I've ever seen. The hand cracking mechanic seems custom made for 3 runners and 3 ad clear players. Ad clear doesn't get it easy though, as resonance zones, screebs, and subjugators keep them constantly on their toes. They also have to be careful with positioning, as playing too deep could screw over runner teammates by making a resonance zone they need unreachable. The encounter isn't ruthless, however, as a great touch Bungie added was that if a teammate not on hand team accidentally gets a resonance, they can jump into the middle pole to cleanse it when a runner breaks a button. As for runners, you can optimize your time as much as you want by playing a bit riskier and not cleansing resonance after each button break. This flexibility means the skill ceiling for runners is exceptionally high. That being said, be careful with optimization, as you've got the added mental burden of keeping your eyes and ears open in the case that a hand that you just broke screams and flashes yellow, as the witness will then test you on what symbol the hand you just broke makes. This keeps runners mentally taxed, and combined with the 4-minute time limit, constantly pushing for faster execution. The best part, however, is by far the damage phase itself. You gather your team together on the central platform, and then the witness will throw different attacks at you that you must avoid, because they will kill you if you stand in them too long. This encounter's damage phase does the impossible. It simultaneously encourages using a well for a damage buff and healing, and moving around to avoid things. That isn't all though. Because of the witness's distance from the damage platform, you're also heavily incentivized to use precision weapons like snipers. Thus, in order to maximize your damage, you must learn the witness's attack rhythms and tells so you can deal damage while avoiding attacks you can't even entirely see coming because you're aiming down a sniper scope. Every part of this encounter is so cohesive and flows together so well that it is easily my favorite raid encounter of all time, and my only regret is that I didn't get to play it on contest. Okay, so you just beat the witness, but it screams at you that it's still in control or whatever. Anyways, you didn't actually kill it. So now let's finish up the story with Excision. And man, Excision is just an amazing narrative experience. There's this big speech that's actually really good, and the situation is treated with proper gravity and seriousness. This is the end. There are no witty one-liners to be found here. You see all your allies, Kaido and the Cabal, Mithrax and the Elixni, the Vanguard, everyone is there. It's such a good moment, and then you're off to battle with them. What happens next can only be described as the perfect capstone to 10 years of Destiny. And the final cutscene after all the curtains close and everyone leaves is just exactly what the game needed. I don't know what Bungie pays D2's narrative team, but if they tripled it, it might just make up for how well this expansion was written. So, what now? I feel like I've experienced the best a game has ever had to offer, let alone Destiny 2. I am fulfilled. The sheer joy that radiates from me after having all my expectations satisfied and then blown away is legitimately suffocating. If you've ever thought, is Destiny 2 worth it? Let me tell you, it was and is. Every single one of the 10,000 hours I've spent playing this game, build crafting, learning raids and dungeons, fighting in the Crucible, going flawless, honing my skills in solo content, mastering damage rotations, practicing for day one raids, agonizing over fragment choices and grinding weapons, all that feels vindicated and even validated. How can Bungie improve on this? I feel like this DLC is the pre-nerf Fellwinter's Lie of DLCs. It simply cannot get any better than this, can it? And that is my question to Bungie. Can you do any better than this? Because whether or not you can, I'll be here for it. I've joked about quitting before, and I'm sure I will again, but let it be known, I'm in it for the long haul. This DLC has secured that fact. And hey, if you want to see me make content on this game, or whatever Bungie makes next until all their servers go down, subscribe. Anyways, I'm probably going to be going a little later or even full on pausing streaming for the next couple days or weeks. I haven't decided yet while I focus on YouTube content. I will be back to it eventually though, so if you haven't yet, follow the kick, link in description. I was considering begging for likes or money here, but honestly, I'm just so done writing and recording right now. I guess I'm out.